Before we begin this podcast, please be advised that the following episode contains language that some listeners may find offensive and inappropriate. The opinions expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not reflect the views of the podcast producers. Listener discretion is advised.
On this episode of Voices of a Killer, we revisit the case of Pamela Fregia from episode 7. Today, we are joined by Pamela's daughter, Hannah. Now, I get a lot of messages through social media about our episodes, and this one really stood out to me. Hannah has a tragic and traumatic connection to this case, as she actually witnessed the crime that her mother committed. In March of 2011, Victoria Perez, a young woman of 8 months pregnant, vanished without a trace after a routine doctor's appointment in Oberlin, Louisiana. For years, her disappearance remained a mystery until recent developments shed light on the truth. Developments that were brought about by Pamela's children, Hannah and her sister. This unique and one-of-a-kind view of what happened on that day will truly send shivers down your spine. So sit back, listen closely, and join us as we bring you this exclusive interview with Hannah on this episode of Voices of a Killer.
Oh.
Hey, Hannah.
Yeah,
How are you doing?
I'm good.
So I just want to kind of go through some questions with you, and if you don't mind, because I know that whenever you actually messaged me, you literally said, hey, my name is Hannah. I'm Pam's daughter. You did a podcast recently on her. She lied about everything that transpired on that day and that you knew everything. So that's pretty deep, especially the fact that you're, her daughter. Pretty surprised that you reached out to me, especially being the daughter of, the murderer, Pamela. What prompted you to do that?
My sister sent me the link, and I was like, I guess that I know the truth needs to be heard because, it's not like good to be lying about stuff like that, like continuing to lie. Like you need to just accept what you did.
So did you listen to the entire podcast?
Yeah, I listened to the entire thing.
Was it hard to listen to?
It wasn't hard to listen to because she was lying the whole time.
Is that basically the way she's been saying it the entire time?
Yeah, and it really made my nerves bad because she was like, "Oh, I just thought she was chunky." Like, why would you say that?
Right.
And then she was laughing. Like that's not.
Yeah.
From this brief introduction of Hannah, we can already tell that she is frustrated with what Pamela said during her episode. Whether it's a lifelong struggle with the trauma of the events that took place that fateful day or the devastation of losing her mother from a young age, needless to say her frustration is justified. Hannah's gracefully come on to Voices of a Killer to set the record straight. Referring back to the original episode with Pamela Fregia, Hannah calls out the way that Pam talked about the victim Victoria Perez. Victoria Perez, a beloved native of LeCamp, Louisiana, was a young woman filled with aspirations for her future. According to her family, Victoria was a gentle person who unfortunately crossed paths with Pamela in March of 2011 at the age of 22, leaving her family and community devastated. Let's listen back to that section that Hannah is referring to so we can get a deeper understanding of her frustration.
And at no point in time do you see a hump where you're like, hey, congratulations or anything like that?
No, I don't want to say it like this, but I just thought she was chunky.
So you really don't know that this girl is pregnant whatsoever?
I had left and went to my mom's house and her boyfriend, Byron, my birth mom, not my adopted mom. I left Victoria and him at my house.
Who's him?
My friend Ashley had introduced me to this guy, and he was a Mexican guy, and his name's Joker. And I really didn't know his first name, but I knew where he lived and everything.
So is this the guy you're dating?
He was the guy that actually, he had come over and we were smoking mojo together.
So he's the guy that you're in a relationship with?
We were talking, but I had never...
Okay, so this guy you're talking to, his name's Joker, and he's left with the victim at your house, and you left the victim and Joker together, right?
Yeah.
Okay, where'd you go?
I went to my birth mother's house and her boyfriend's house to pick up my kids.
This clip from the original episode with Pamela Fregia introduces two main points for Pamela's claim of innocence in the tragic murder of Victoria Perez. Firstly, that Pamela denied knowing that Victoria was pregnant. This became a crucial point for the state's prosecution's case on convicting her of first-degree murder, a premeditation for the act of murder and thus fetal abduction. The second is the introduction of the other main character in this story, the mysterious man called Joker. While the details about Joker are scarce, Pamela said that she left Victoria in Joker's care at her home, and it was Joker that murdered Victoria. But as we will hear from Hannah, it turns out Joker might actually be a real person, just not the one that she was hoping for.
Yeah, so did y'all, you and your sister that called you and told you, did y'all both see this happen? Because I know y'all were the ones that were there, right?
Yes, we did. We both did.
Yeah. So how old were you?
I was 10 years old.
10 years old. So you're pretty much cognitive of what's going on around you, even when an adult's probably trying to hide it. What kind of person was your mom back before this even happened? Is she pretty, what you would call normal?
She was pretty normal in the beginning, and then when her and my dad got divorced, she just it just transpired down there. She just started doing drugs and choosing men and stuff over her kids.
So this guy that she was supposedly killed to take the baby and show him that they had a baby. Did you ever meet this guy?
No, I think she was trying to reference my stepdad because he had clown tattoos. So the Joker, I guess that's what she made up as him. But he was not there when it happened. He was in Texas.
Well, I'm talking about the guy she's trying to get back. Is that the same guy?
Yeah, that's the same guy. His name is Clyde.
Oh, they don't call him Joker though?
No, I'm not sure. I mean, he got clown tattoos on his face. But I guess I never heard nobody call him Joker.
From what Hannah is saying, I feel more inclined to believe that Clyde and Joker are the same person. Hannah states that Clyde had clown tattoos on his face, which seems like a plausible case for the nickname of Joker. Hannah also states that Clyde was down in Texas at the time of the murder, something that was backed up by court documents. It's also something that Pamela herself pointed out in her episode. Clyde was no angel when it came to his marriage to Pamela. Pamela faced a torrent of physical violence from Clyde, and eventually Clyde left Pamela for a job in Texas. Let's listen back to Pamela's episode to hear just how tumultuous their relationship really was.
How long were y'all together?
4 years.
4 years?
Almost 5.
Did it ever get turbulent where things didn't seem to be working out any longer?
He started drinking a lot, and he started doing crystal meth and smoking mojo, and he was taking pills, and so he started becoming very abusive. And when I would be at work, he would call me and say, I saw you, you're not at work. And I was at work, but he would just constantly come to my job, making sure I was there. I worked at the nursing home, and he was always looking for me, I guess the drugs made him paranoid, maybe.
He's keeping tabs on you.
Yeah.
So you said he was doing meth, he was drinking. Were you completely sober during this event, or were you partaking?
Yeah, I had my job, and they did random drug tests, so I didn't do drugs.
So you never got high?
Every once in a while.
Oh, okay.
No, I had got high before, but when I got that job, I had quit. And then he just kept going, and it got worse and worse.
So you stopped for the job, he was getting high and becoming abusive. What made the relationship come to an end?
One night, my sister owned the bar in the town we live in, and he went to the bar with my cousin, and I locked the door because he had a key. Whenever he came in, he came to the door, he was beating on the door and ringing the doorbell. So I went and unlocked the door, and I was like, why didn't you just use your key? And he started beating me, why did you lock the door? Who's in here with you? And it was just me and my kids there. And so I ran to the kitchen, and I picked up a chair to try to block him from getting to me, and he took the chair and threw it. And he picked me up by my neck and threw me down, and we had to turn my car, and he threw me down on the floor. And When I woke up, he had the chair over my body, and he was sitting on top of the chair with his feet holding my hands down, and he was like, "Can you get up?" And I was like, I couldn't. I had an egg the size of a softball on the back of my head. So I passed back out. When I woke up, he was crying. He was apologizing to me, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so I went to my auntie's house the next day, and my eyes were all black, and she told me that if I didn't make him leave, she was going to disown me. And I called his mom and asked his mom to come get him. So she said that she had a job for him in Texas. So she worked at the plant, and she come got him.
Despite the violence she received at the hands of her husband, Pamela still felt a strong connection to him. This is something often seen amongst survivors of domestic violence, and Pamela remained steadfast in her desire to win her husband's love. In an attempt to win him back, Pamela hatched a desperate plan to deceive her estranged husband. Pretending to be pregnant in a bid to reignite their fractured relationship, she falsified sonogram photos, and according to a Wikipedia page on which her name appears, this was despite the fact that her family believed that she had already had a hysterectomy. Now, one thing I must add is that this Wikipedia page is on a crime known as fetal abduction. To quote from this article, fetal abduction refers to the rare crime of child abduction by kidnapping of an at-term pregnant woman and extraction of her fetus through a crude cesarean section. In this small number of reported cases, a few pregnant victims and about half of their fetuses survived the assault and non-medically performed cesarean. After the break, we hear from Hannah on how the day of the murder played out.
Where was Victoria that day? Did she actually go and get her at the hospital to lure her there for clothes?
One of my cousins actually had a baby the day that we went, and I went with her. She told me that we was going to see my cousin's baby. I'm not sure what cousin it was.
Did she lie about that? Did y'all see a baby, your cousin, a baby?
No, we did not see a baby. We saw Victoria. Like, we went to some part of the hospital. I'm not sure what part it was, but I thought we was going to see, like, you know, the baby or whatever. But instead, we went with Victoria, and they started talking. And I don't know what they was talking about because I was just running around being a kid, like, I was ready to go. And her and Pam was talking, and we went into an ultrasound with her. So she knew she was pregnant. She knew that she was pregnant.
It sounds like the prosecutors put it together where she actually stalked her there, went over there and lured her from the hospital or something.
Yeah, she actually did lure her from the hospital. I did hear her tell the lady that she had baby clothes, what she did because she had lied about being pregnant, and his family threw her a baby shower. And so she had baby clothes and stuff from that baby shower.
Pamela?
Yes.
They threw Pamela a baby shower?
Yes, his family.
So she had everybody going like she was pregnant?
Yes.
Okay, and then so whenever she went to the hospital, did Victoria actually leave with y'all, or did she just agree to come later?
No, she left with us.
Wow. So did you ever meet Victoria before?
No, but I know that she was my dad's cousin, but I've never met her previously before that I can remember. What's
the discussion in the car like whenever she's bringing the victim to the house?
I really can't remember. I know they was talking about the baby clothes and stuff, and you know, how she was happy to be pregnant and happy to be about to have the baby and stuff. And then we had got to the house, and me, my sister, and my little cousin Bryce, he was like a baby, like not a couple months old, but like probably like close to 1, I want to say. And my little brother was there.
The information she tells us here is in line with court documents. Pamela lured Victoria from the hospital to her home, where she eventually met her demise. During that time at the hospital, Hannah states that Victoria had an ultrasound which proves that Pamela must have known that she was pregnant. In Pamela's episode, she claims that she invited Victoria over to her house to smoke synthetic marijuana. If you listen carefully to the way Pamela answers my questions about this situation, I think you can make your own mind up as a listener as to who is telling the truth.
Around this time that you're telling him, hey, I'm pregnant, which You're just trying to secure your relationship with him. You actually knew of someone that was pregnant, or you already knew who they were?
No, actually, she had came to my house and asked for a ride home, and I was going to take her to her mom's house and drop her off.
So you had never met the victim before, and she just showed up at your house and said, I need a ride?
No, I had actually knew her. My children's father, I think they were somehow cousins, and she had been in my house before. I just hadn't seen her in a long time. And her sister had actually been homeless at one time, and I let her and her baby stay with me at my house with her boyfriend.
So you knew her prior to her asking for a ride?
Yes.
Whenever she came to your house for a ride, how far along was she?
I really honestly didn't even know she was pregnant at the time.
Okay.
She didn't look to me to be pregnant.
You called the victim your friend, but you didn't know your friend was pregnant?
No. I had not seen her in a long time.
So when you reunite, she never said, hey, I'm 8 months pregnant?
No.
But it's your friend?
Yeah. I mean, I know it's hard for you to believe this, but like her sister had even stayed at my house with her baby and her boyfriend.
The victim's sister?
Yes.
Do you know the victim's sister too?
Yes.
So you really are friends with the victim, the sister, the whole family?
I was friends with them, but then you know how, like when me and my kid's dad got divorced, people just grow apart.
Sure. And then whenever you come back together, usually it's, hey, friend, guess what? I'm pregnant.
No.
That never occurred. Y'all reunited, an old friend, at your house. She's like literally 1 month from giving birth to another human being, and she never said, hey, I'm pregnant.
It was, do you want to come smoke? And she said yes.
Because like 8 months is you could give birth right now and it'd be okay. Another month, maybe even another month before that. And usually women are pretty out there at 8 months. It's very noticeable. You never noticed a hump on her?
No.
You said that she was overweight?
Yes.
Like how much overweight? What do you think she weighed?
Maybe 2, a little over 2, maybe.
That's not really that big for you could tell somebody's pregnant. You really never knew that she was pregnant?
You don't have to believe me.
No, I can believe you, but let me ask you this. When you're burying her and you're lifting around, you never noticed like a hump then? At any point in time, or was it the courts that finally informed you like, oh, by the way, this woman that y'all buried was pregnant? At any point in time before the courts tell you, did you know?
No. Actually, they had something on the news about her, and that's when I found out.
So why is it that the prosecutors say that you actually had met her at a hospital where she was 8 months pregnant?
I don't know.
And tell me, why would prosecutors think and state definitively that you are solely responsible for her death?
I don't know. I told them I was there.
So you're actually claiming that someone else took this girl's life?
Yes.
What's the discussion in the household when she's there? Hey, you want a drink? Like, how's the baby coming along? What's going on? Tell me, what's the discussion like?
We were just laughing and joking, and we were getting high, and I was like, oh, actually, we had just got to my house.
What are you getting high on?
Mojo.
What's Mojo?
Synthetic marijuana.
All right, okay. So this pregnant girl is actually smoking this synthetic marijuana?
Yes.
This retelling of the day of the murder comes from a brave place for Hannah. As listeners, we have to acknowledge just how traumatic it must be to relive these details, and for that I thank Hannah for her bravery. Her innocence as a child was taken away from her by having to witness such a gruesome crime. Something that we will hear Hannah talk about on the next episode of Voices of a Killer. If you want to find out what happens next, right now, you can sign up at patreon.com/voicesofakiller. There you can find bonus content, early access, ad-free listening, and access to our chat community. So go to patreon.com/voicesofakiller to sign up now. Your support is what keeps us passionate about bringing these stories to you. That's a wrap on this episode of Voices of a Killer. A big shout out to Sonic Futures, who handled the production, audio editing, music licensing, and promotion of this podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, make sure to visit our website at voicesofakiller.com. There you can find previous episodes, transcripts, and additional information about the podcast. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your feedback helps us improve and reach new listeners. Thank you for your support, and we can't wait to share more stories with you in the future. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Toby, and we'll see you next time on Voices of a Killer.